Yunzhou, thousands of miles away from the capital city, from the military camp outside the imperial city, the breathtakingly beautiful Susu commanded a group of ghosts to help pack valuable items. In a delicate voice, she said, "Master, everything is packed." Li Miaozhen nodded slightly. She opened the sachet tied to her waist. A whirlpool-like suction emerged. The general's tent was filled with a dozen ghostly figures. Susu sighed. "What a pity, you still haven't broken through to the 4th grade realm, otherwise, no disciple from the human sect would be your match." Li Miaozhen sighed helplessly. "I've been stuck at the Golden Core realm for 2 whole years. Forming a nascent soul is not so easy." By now, the bandit problem in Yunzhou had been completely eradicated. Li Miaozhen cooperated with the local army of Yunzhou and 2 golden gongs to attack the mountain stronghold. Flatten the largest villages. There are dozens of smaller villages. Of course, the bandit problem in Yunzhou is like a persistent illness. It has been breeding and surviving in this land for hundreds of years. It's not something that can be eradicated easily. In a few years, it will resurface again. The current result is the maximum the local army can achieve, but Yunzhou can be stable for a few more years. Li Miaozhen is very satisfied with this result. Next, she will go do her own thing. The battle of heaven and man. Every 60 years, the heaven sect and the human sect hold a debate. Before that, outstanding disciples of the younger generation from both sects clash first, to warm up for the battle of heaven and man. Li Miaozhen is the most outstanding disciple of the heaven sect in this generation. Another one is Li Miaozhen's senior brother, who is also a member of the Heaven and Earth Society. He holds the 7th piece of the Earth Book, but that guy is in the northeast, and lost contact. Susu suddenly said, "It's a pity that annoying jerk has fallen. Otherwise, he could help me investigate the Su family's massacre case." Li Miaozhen looked at Mei, who grew up with her, with a stir in her heart. Actually, Susu's home is not in the capital. Even if that guy wanted to investigate, he couldn't leave the capital and go thousands of miles away to investigate an old case. Susu understands this truth herself, but she always mentioned it from time to time, seemingly lamenting the massacre, but actually lamenting that shameless man. Li Miaozhen sighed inwardly. So, one must let go of emotions. When relatives pass away, grief is overwhelming. When lovers change their hearts, resentment intertwines. The 7 emotions and 6 desires of the human world are all karmic fire. That's why they say deep affection doesn't last long. Only being heartless can endure through the ages. Take Susu and leave the military camp. More than 400 Feiyan soldiers gathered in the square, waiting quietly. The soldiers all removed their armor. Li Miaozhen slowly scanned the soldiers. At this moment, some of them had changed into casual clothes. Some were dressed in coarse linen, and some were in rags, like beggars. This is how they originally looked. The Feiyan army was a motley crew. Its members came from all over. Among them were gang disciples, wandering warriors with no home, and chivalrous thieves who robbed the rich to help the poor. They all gathered in Yunzhou because of one person. That person was Lady Feiyan. Now that Li Miaozhen is leaving, this army will naturally disband. After the bandit suppression ended, Yang Chanan privately approached Li Miaozhen, wanting to incorporate the Feiyan army into the regular forces, and develop them into the elite troops of Yunzhou. He hoped she could persuade the soldiers of the Feiyan army to stay in Yunzhou, but no one was willing to stay. Li Miaozhen took a deep breath and said loudly, "We have fought side by side for over a year, eliminated hundreds of mountain strongholds, and killed thousands of bandits. Wherever we pass, the people can recuperate and live without fear of bandits. Wherever we pass, merchants can trade and support their families. Wherever we pass, the light of justice shines down." Li Miaozhen thanks all the brothers for not abandoning me. However, all good things must come to an end. The journey to Yunzhou comes to a close. I will continue forward. You should also go home and reunite with your family and friends. Life's journey is long, sometimes bumpy, sometimes smooth, sometimes bitter, sometimes joyful. I hope everyone remembers the time in Yunzhou and stays true to your original aspirations. That being said, Li Miaozhen looked at the 400 soldiers and clasped her fists. With a resounding voice, "Do good deeds. Do not ask about the future." 400 soldiers clasped their fists in salute. This is the heroine Feiyan they are willing to serve, the one they are willing to follow. Meanwhile, in the southern border, the Gu tribe is called barbaric, not because they eat raw meat and drink blood, but because they are based on Gu. Their cultivation system and lifestyle align with Gu insects. Only in this way can they breed Gu insects. Assimilation with Gu. To put it more appropriately, the development of the Gu tribe follows a Gu-centric approach. Therefore, their level of civilization cannot compare with human-centric nations like Dafeng. The gap in civilization is reflected in various aspects, the most obvious being culture and architecture. The Gu tribe still uses ancient hieroglyphs. Their buildings are primarily made of yellow mud and grass. They use pottery instead of porcelain. However, the Gu tribe in the southern frontier excels at raising mulberry and silkworms. The quality of the silk they gather is several times higher than that of Dafeng, but they are not skilled in weaving. Therefore, they are often bought out by Dafeng merchants at low prices for their high-quality silkworms, or they barter for ready-made fabrics. Bay Mountain stretches for hundreds of miles, rich in resources. At the foot of the mountain is fertile land, crisscrossed by rivers. The main base of the Ligu tribe is located here. They cultivated thousands of acres on this plain. Some tribesmen farmed. Bartering with each other. Mosan returned from hunting with a group of men. Lena, yesterday Granny Tiangu sent a snow eagle with a message, asking you to see her today. Why are you still dawdling here? Lena was obviously taken aback. Then she patted her head. Oh no, I forgot. Ma Song, why didn't you remind me earlier? Lena hurriedly got up and ran to the Tiang tribe. Seeing this, Ma Song quickly shouted, the Tiang tribe's dam has a breach. Remember to help fix it. Compared to the Ligu tribe, the Tiang tribe is more like a county town from the Dafeng dynasty, although it's a bit crude, but they got rid of the grass houses, mainly using mud houses and brick-tiled houses. The Tiangu tribe is built at the foot of Luoxia mountain, from the foot to the waist of the mountain. Terraced fields are densely packed. There is a dam on the mountain. Yesterday, it suddenly burst and flooded the terraces. At this moment, the Tiangu granny noticed Lena, and waved to her. Lena leapt lightly among the rocks. She approached Granny Tiangu and said coyly, Granny. But then she noticed something in the field. Although she didn't sense any danger, she couldn't help but ask curiously, what is that creature? Granny Tiangu gave a wry smile. That's a Jiao. Not sure where it came from. It destroyed the dam. The newly planted rice seedlings in the tribe were all washed away. This was the first time Lena saw a Jiao, but she had heard of it. This kind of monster lives in the dense, intersecting waterways of the southern frontier. It roams around along underground rivers. One of her uncles was said to have been eaten by a Jiao while swimming. At this moment, the heavenly Gu granny said, help gather some stones. Seal the gap as soon as possible. Lena is best at hard labor. She immediately ran away. In less than a quarter of an hour, everyone heard the dull sound of footsteps. They looked in the direction of the sound. A stone mountain was slowly moving. This stone mountain was over 20 zhang high. Throwing it into a reservoir would cause massive waves. The stone mountain didn't move by itself. It was being pushed by Lena, but compared to the 20 zhang boulder, she is as insignificant as an ant. The people of the heavenly Gu tribe remain expressionless. They seem to be quite used to it. Among the 7 tribes of the Gu clan, the Strength Gu tribe is known for its immense strength. Lena's father, Long Tu, is the real mountain mover. During the great battle with the Dafeng, he carried a mountain and threw it at the army, crushing thousands of people to death. The boulder slowly moved near the dam. Lena put it down. Then there was a loud rumble. Everyone stood on the dam and looked down. They saw Lena slowly lowering her waist, steadying her stance, taking a few breaths. Suddenly, with a furious shout, she punched the giant rock's surface. With a cracking sound, spiderweb-like cracks appeared and quickly spread on the rock's surface. In an instant, it crumbled into pieces, turned into pieces of rubble to block the gap. With Lena's help, the materials to repair the dam were obtained. No need for the Tiang tribe to collect them painstakingly, greatly saving time and labor. Leaving the tribesmen to repair the dam, Granny Tiang took Lena down the mountain, back to her residence. Granny Tiang took Lena straight into the house, and took out a wooden box from the cabinet. This is the 7 deadly Gu potion brewed by Grandma's old partner. Before he passed away, the potion was only half finished. Grandma took 20 years to finally complete it. Now, it's entrusted to you for safekeeping. With a snap, the box opened. Inside lay a worm as white as jade. Lena was a bit surprised. For me? The mysterious granny shook her head. It's not for you. You will give it to someone destined to have it. A string of question marks flashed through Lena's mind. She had no idea where this was going. Suddenly, she was given the 7 deadly goo, and she was asked to pass it on to someone destined. The mysterious granny said, "Do you remember the story I told you about the 2 thieves?" Lena nodded vigorously. Grandmother Tiangu's eyes revealed a complex expression. There is a legend in the Tiangu tribe. On the day the Gu god awakens, the entire southern border and even the 9 provinces will become a world of Gu. Although the Gu tribe survives by raising and refining Gu, Gu is merely a tool. We are still human. As for the legend of the Gu god, it is not just alarmist talk. It is the doomsday scenario deduced by generations of the Tiangu tribe. To glimpse this future, many predecessors suffered from the backlash of the heavenly machine. To keep the Gu god asleep forever, 20 years ago, the old man came up with an idea. He wanted to steal something, to suppress the Gu god, so it would sleep for generations. So he left the southern region, and was never heard from again. Not long after, the life Gu he left in the tribe withered. I just found out that he was already dead. Lena's eyes sparkled with curiosity. What was stolen? Grandma Tiang shook her head. Her voice was kind. Grandma is old, can't withstand the backlash of the secrets. Grandma Tiang stared at her intensely. Last night, I glimpsed a change in fate. That thing is about to be born. Lena, you are involved too. Lena blinked her blue eyes. She couldn't understand how an ordinary child like her could appear in the story of the heavenly Gu granny. Go to the capital. Your cultivation is sufficient. You just lack experience. Take this opportunity to walk in the human world. I have discussed this with your father. He also agreed. Lena first affirmed. Go to the capital? She examined the wooden box in her hand, and found that she wasn't too resistant to the idea. Her mind first thought of number 3, number 1, and Jinlian Road. This made her want to go to the capital even more. At noon, the warm sunshine hung in the sky. The Shu residence was filled with laughter and joy. Shu Qian was initially just going through the motions, but upon hearing everyone congratulate him and call him Viscount, he suddenly grew fond of the feeling. At this moment, the plump and big-eared county magistrate sighed. I have a niece who is 16 years old, and she is quite pretty. I originally wanted to betroth her to Ning Yan, but now it seems impossible. Captain Wang laughed and chimed in. Ning Yan is now a viscount. Only ladies of noble birth and wealthy heiresses can match him. Chang Xing at the next table overheard this, and felt very uneasy. She was disheartened and melancholic. With her position as the chief constable of the Yamen, being with a night watchman would be more than suitable. Moreover, they are in the same profession, which could be considered a perfect match. But after Shu Qian was ennobled, he entered the noble class. One certainly cannot marry a female constable as the main wife. It goes against propriety. Thinking like this, Chief Lu felt even more distressed. Tears shimmered in his eyes, as if regretting his previous restraint, which caused him to miss a good match. The banquet didn't end until the second quarter of the afternoon. Shu Qian and Shu Ershu were responsible for seeing off the guests, directing the servants to clean up. Around Shenxi, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., Shu Erlang returned with his servants and maids. Aunt truly cares like a real mother. She ordered the cook to heat up the leftover lunch for Erlang. Erlang ate and then rested well. Tomorrow he has to get up early for the Gongyuan exams. Shu Qian suddenly asked, Erlang, what are the topics for the provincial exam? Shu Erlang replied while eating, while briefly introducing policy questions, Confucian classics, and poetry. He paused and added, since the previous emperor, poetry has been removed from the imperial exams. Until the 11th year of Yuanjing when Wang Zhenwen entered the cabinet, it was through his efforts that poetry was reinstated in the exams. If you were to take the imperial exams, no doubt, you would at least revive the poetry scene. Then he turned to his father and said quietly, since the end of last year, elder brother has become famous in the poetry circles. Father's reputation has also gradually risen. Xu Pingjia showed a joyful expression and laughed heartily. Actually, it's because DeLong himself is extraordinarily gifted. I didn't really train him much. These scholars just love to make a fuss over small matters. How did they praise me? Shu Xinian's lips curled up. They insult you beyond reason. Shu Pingja slams the table in anger. Outrageous. How dare they say that about me? Shu Erlang chuckles. The more poems you write, brother, the more infamous our father becomes. Who knows, he might go down in history. That night, Shu Pingja couldn't sleep from worry. Cursed. They're not dead yet, and you're already worrying about their reputation centuries later. Pointless worry. Shu Pingjiding sighed. Women's views. Erlang has the qualities of a prime minister, and Along will also be remembered in history. When future generations evaluate them, they'll praise them. But when it comes to me, not acting like a son are 4 words. Aunt murmured. That would also be recorded in history. By the way, I want to tell you something. What if Erlang gets assigned elsewhere in the future? Can you find a way to keep him in the capital? Shu Pingja said helplessly. Don't even think about it. He's a student of Yunlu Academy. Being sent out is inevitable. I hope it won't be too far. Students from Yunlu Academy are basically excluded from the power circles in the capital. Most will be assigned to various states and regions. Even if they stay in the capital, they'll only be minor officials. Auntie raised her eyebrows slightly. Why don't you talk to Ning Yan? He's a night watchman and knows the princess. He'll surely have a way. Shu Pingja lowered his voice and said, This is a matter for the Ministry of Personnel. What does it have to do with the night watchman? It only attracts more hatred from civil officials. Ning Yan stepping in will only backfire. Hearing this, her tightly furrowed brows couldn't relax. She felt extremely anxious. She sat on the bed, hugged her knees, and said nothing. On the other side, the door of the side room was knocked on loudly. Shu Xinian, who was about to go to sleep, heard the knocking. He opened the door and saw Shu Qian standing outside. A bit annoyed, he said, Big brother, what do you want? Shu Qian scrutinized his fair and handsome little brother, and grinned. Come guess the riddles. Upon hearing this, Shu Xinian, he had no choice but to reluctantly invite the elder brother in. Then he said, No need to guess the questions. Several great scholars from the academy have already given us hints. Shu Qian nodded slowly. What about poetry? Shu Xinian frowned and replied, Poetry is not considered. I am not good at poetry myself. Shu Qian laughed. Preparedness averts peril. Brother came here just to guess poetry. Shu Xinian twitched his mouth. So, how does brother intend to guess? Shu Qian gave a mysterious smile. Draw lots? Shu Xinian cut a sheet of Schwinn paper into dozens of small squares. He wrote themes like flowers, birds, fish, and insects on them, then shuffled them randomly. Brother, you go ahead. Shu Xinian thought his elder brother was being ridiculous, but seeing him so enthusiastic, he couldn't refuse. He just wanted to quickly get rid of his annoying elder brother, so he could sleep. Shu Qian closed his eyes, grabbed randomly, and Shu Xinian saw that his elder brother had grabbed 2 slips of paper. 2. Shu Qian took a photo of the note. 2 it is, then, he said, unfolding the note. They were aspiration and patriotism. Shu Xinian looked at his elder brother with some anticipation, because his poetry was quite to his liking. Tonight he could finally feast his eyes, but Shu Qian scratched his head, looking extremely troubled. In the end, he could only sigh helplessly. He couldn't recall any poems on this theme at the moment. He could only go back and think it over. Shu Xinian felt extremely disappointed. His resentment towards his elder brother deepened. He returned to his room. Shu Qian lit a candle. He sat down at the table. He looked up at the beam and said, Aren't you a prophet? Can't you just predict the topic for the spring festival? A woman with disheveled hair was lying on the beam, wearing a simple robe, and replied faintly, A prophet must know how to keep secrets. I am not someone with great fortune. If I reveal the spring exam questions, I might die tomorrow. Shu Qian promised, I will protect you. Didn't the supervisor say I am someone with great fortune? Zhang Li said lightly. Since you are someone with great fortune, the topic you draw must be the spring riots question. Why should I take risks? Shu Qian thought for a moment. It seemed to make sense. He asked, Then why not let me guess policy questions and classics? Zhang Li said. The more singular, the easier to guess right. Shu Qian didn't speak further. He racked his brains, recalling the poems he learned in middle and high school. Even after so many years, Some poems were still vividly imprinted in his mind, the most famous one expressing ambition should be Cao Cao's though the tortoise lives long, but considering Emperor Yuanjing's desire for longevity, writing this poem might make Emperor Yuanjing loathe it. There are quite a few patriotic poems, but the patriotic poems I remember were all born during times of national calamity. What iron horses and frozen rivers enter dreams? What singing girls don't know the sorrow of a fallen nation? Hard to deal with. In the middle of the night, Shu Qian was sleeping soundly. Suddenly he heard a muffled thud, then the groaning of an unfortunate woman. He woke up with a start, instinctively gripping the sword by his bed. Zhang Li, enduring the pain, said, "Sorry, I fell." Shu Qian's mouth twitched. "You can fall like this, you're a 5th-rank warlock." He let out a long breath. "It's okay. Is this also part of the misfortune?" This 5th disciple of the supervisor said something heartbreaking in a calm tone. "This is already good enough. If it weren't for you being here, I might have broken my leg directly." "Sorry, did I wake you?" Shu Qian asked. "I'm fine, but are you hurt?" Zhang Li struggled to stand up. "No problem, anyway, I'm used to it." After speaking, she silently got up and walked towards the door. "I'll meditate outside. I won't disturb your sleep." Shu Qian watched her leave. He turned over and continued sleeping, but then the door opened again. Zhang Li came back. Shu Qian made a sound to express his confusion and displeasure. Zhang Li whispered, "I don't know which jerk threw an orange peel in the hallway. I accidentally stepped on it and fell, hit my head and got a cut. I think it's safer to stay inside." Shu Qian was filled with sympathy. "You can slip on an orange peel, so unlucky." Indeed, the sky was just getting light. Ant personally helped Xu Erlang pack his writing tools for the exam, as well as snacks, jerky, and water for the exam room. Xu Zinian hurriedly stopped her. "Mother, there's no need to bring so much food. The exam only lasts 1 day, we'll be out by dusk." The imperial exam has 3 sessions. Each session lasts 1 day, spanning 9 days. After getting ready, Xu Pingzhi took his wife, daughter, and nephew to see Xu Zinian off to the examination hall. Xu Qian, who hadn't slept all night, handed over 2 notes. "Erlang, these are poems written by your big brother. Read and destroy after." Xu Zinian took them without a word and couldn't help but silently praise. What a great poem. If he could really guess the topic, he might truly shine. Xu Zinian wrote it down and then tore up the paper. Just as he was about to bid farewell to his family and enter the exam hall, he suddenly heard someone chanting Buddha's name not far away. He was a bit puzzled, because it seemed to be directed at him. Xu Zinian turned to look, and saw a tall, burly bald man, with hands clasped together. He gave a profound and enigmatic smile. Xu Zinian felt a flash of doubt. "Do I know him?" But he still returned a polite smile. After sending Erlang to queue up at the examination hall, Ant and Lingyue suggested going back to the mansion to catch up on sleep. Little Doubting didn't quite agree. Since they were already out, she suggested going to Giyue Tower for breakfast, but her suggestion was unanimously ignored by everyone. Shu Qian was still worried about Zhang Li back at the mansion, afraid that if he returned late, she might have already passed away. When he returned to the Shu mansion at dawn, Shu Qian pushed open the door. He saw Zhang Li sitting cross-legged on the bed. Why does this woman always have her hair down? No one knows what she really looks like. The disciples of the supervisor always seem odd. Ironically, the foodie girl seems the most normal. Shu Qian cleared his throat and said, "You don't need to hide it. I can introduce you to my family." Zhang Li said, "That would bring misfortune to your family. It won't be a big trouble. But misfortune constantly affects those around me. If they don't know I exist, they can avoid it." Shu Qian shivered upon hearing this. "Then forget it. It would be really bad if the house turned into chaos. There's still a long way to go until the hour of the rabbit." Shu Qian planned to meditate for a moment. Suddenly, he felt a pang of anxiety. Someone in the Earth Book chat group had messaged. Shu Qian asked Zhang Li, "Can you turn around?" Zhang Li obediently turned around, sitting with her back to him. Only then did Shu Qian take out the Earth Book fragment, thinking to himself with complaints, "It's really inconvenient with one more person." Li Miaozhen sent a message, "I'm planning to go to the capital." The rarely active Taoist Jin Lian surprisingly replied first, "Is the bandit suppression over?" Shu Qian felt a surge of joy. Is the bandit suppression over? Then Chun Ji and the others should be back too. Li Miaozhen said, yes, master, that's right, number 1. You still haven't given me the information on the younger generation of Ren sect disciples. Back then, she exchanged information about the Yunzhou case with number 1. She wanted to get the ranking of the younger generation disciples of Ren sect from number 1, but number 1 inexplicably went silent for a long time. To this day, the promise still hasn't been fulfilled. A few minutes later, number 1 sent a message. The current generation of Ren sect disciples is not strong. The highest is Jingchen, who is only at the 7th rank. But there's one person, I'm not sure if they count as the younger generation. Li Miaozhen asked, who is it? How skilled are they? Number 1 replied, this person is a scholar by background, the top scorer in the 27th year of Yuanjing. He is both a mentor and a friend to Lingyun Daoheng, Luo Yuheng's senior brother. He received the teachings of Renzong swordsmanship and the Heart Sutra from Lingyun Daoheng. This person is highly gifted. After abandoning literature to practice swordsmanship for 3 years, he reached the realm of sword clarity. He then challenged Jin Luo Chen Kaitai. After a crushing defeat, he wandered away. Wei Yuan praised him as the best swordsman in the capital. He has no master-disciple title with Taoist Lingyun. It's uncertain if he counts as a disciple of the human sect. Shu Qian was stunned. A scholar by birth, abandoned literature for swordsmanship. The best swordsman in the capital. He is truly a disciple of Taoist Ren. Why does this feel so familiar? At this point, number 4 said, hee, I've already returned to the capital. Shu Qian suddenly sat up in shock. It really is him. Taoist Yinlian is definitely up to something. He knows that the heavenly and human sects are like water and fire, yet he still wants to drag them into the book fragments together. Interesting. Number 4 and number 2 are coming to the capital to fight. Wait, if it's just Li Miaozhen coming to the capital, I believe I can handle it. After all, resurrection can be explained by the rebirth pill, and Li Miaozhen, like me, has experienced social death. We wouldn't be too hung up about it. But if number 4 also comes to the capital, and then number 5 pops up at this moment, what a coincidence. I will also be leaving southern Jiang tomorrow to travel to the capital. When I arrive at the capital, let's all drink together. Shu Qian was full of questions. What's going on? Why is number 5 also coming to the capital? With number 5's intelligence, numbers 4 and 2 definitely wouldn't feel at ease with her alone. By then, an offline meeting would be inevitable, and I will also be in the capital. Li Miaozhen also knows my true identity. No way. Erlang must take the blame for this.